In this chapter, we are going to learn all about shapes, how to create shapes, how to modify them, and a lot more. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it.
Hello guys. Go to the top view, click on the perspective, go to the top view. Now we are in the top view. Go to the create tab. Inside the create tab, go to the shapes. Here you will find a lot of shapes, primitive shapes that 3ds Max has provided us. Now you can go ahead and click on the rectangle and create a shape inside your viewport. Let's create a rectangle. Similarly, you can create a circle, or let's say we want to create a star. Or maybe something else. Let's say you want to create an n-gon. So this is one way of creating objects or creating shapes inside 3ds Max. Just click on the shape and drag it inside your viewport and the shape will be created. You can also create a shape by using keyboard entries. Go to the rectangle. Here we have keyboard entries. Similarly to what we have learned in the last chapter, I can press 10, press 20 inside the wheel and click on create. And now you will see a rectangle is created. Now, if you want to change them, you can go into the modifier panel and you can change the parameters, and you can also change the shape of the rectangle. You'll also have few more parameters when you want to modify the rectangle or any other spline or a shape that you have created inside 3ds Max. For the rectangle, we have corner radius. Here you can just increase the corner radius and you will see the corner of the rectangle becomes more rounded. Go to the move tool. Let's move the rectangle on the side. Similarly, we can also create let's say an n-gon. Here you can create n-gon by using the keyboard entry by the radius and the corner radius. Or once you create an n-gon, right click and go to the modifier panel. Here you will find the parameters that you have used to create the n-gon. For example, I can increase the radius or change the sides of an n-gon. Let's say I want to create a pentagon. So now we have a pentagon with 5 sides, or also change the corner radius, which we just saw. So now we have a pentagon with smooth edges or round edges or round corners maybe. Similarly, I can go into the star, create another star, and let's say I want to increase the sides of this. So go to the modifier panel. Here we have 6 sides. Let's say I want to have 10 sides. So now we have a star with 10 sides and we have fillet radius 2. So if I increase this radius, you will see the outer radius of the outer corners or outer points of the star becomes more smooth, and the inside also we can make it a smooth. So now we have a shape that is very different than the star that we have created. So this is something that you will have to know. Create an object and then you can later modify that object by going into the modifier panel and changing the parameters of that particular shape. Let's select all of them and delete them. Let's learn a way of creating another shape. Go to the create tab. Here you have a line object. So line is nothing but a free flow or free form tool in which you can create a shape of your choice. It can be anything that you want. It's not a specific shape like rectangle or circle or anything. So the way to create this shape is just by clicking on the viewport, and you can just start creating a shape. For example, if I click over here and I can just click anywhere I want and I can create any shape that I want or like to create. Just keep on clicking and you will see a total new shape can be created as per my choice. So now we have this shape that is created, but this particular shape does not have parameters. So let's go into the modify panel and you will see we do not have a rollout called parameters. It does not have length, width, etc. What it has is points by which that you have created this shape. In order to access these points, select the shape, go to the modify panel, click on the small triangle over here that says line. Here you will see three parameters that says vertex, segment, and spline. Now you can choose and you can change the shape that you have created by using these elements. Select the vertex. Now you can access any of these points and change them as per your requirement or as per your desire, and create altogether a different shape that you want to create. So just by clicking and changing the position of the points, you can create an entirely different shape of your choice. So if you go into the segments, you can also select any of the segments and change the shape the way you want, or you can see how you can change the shape by going to the segment. Now spline, when you click on the spline, it selects the entire spline. Now what this means is like, for when you go to the spline, what it means is like this is an entire spline and it has no separation. But if I click on the spline, press shift on the keyboard and drag it, so now I have two shapes, but they are not two different objects. So I have two different splines. This is one spline, this is another spline, but they are one single object. So if I go and click on the line over here, whenever I move this, they move as one single object, but they are two separate splines. So in order to access these as separate, so go to the spline. Now I can access them separately and place it or position them, or I can change each and every spline separately. So now you can see this is not changing, but I'm changing this particular shape, but this remains the same. But when I go to the line, this is one single object. Anything I do, they remain one single object, but in order to edit them separately, I have to go to the spline and change them or position them. Now we have two separate splines. That's what spline means. So we have two shapes separate from each other. So this is one spline and this is another spline. Similarly, this is one vertex, this is another vertex, this is another vertex. In segments, this is one segment, this is another segment, this is another segment, this is another segment, but they are one single object. So let's go ahead and delete this spline. Let's select this spline, and now you can see when I change this, my transformation tool is over here and my object is over here. So what I can do is go into the hierarchy tab, affect pivot only, this is what we have learned previously, and go center to object. So now we have the transformation tool inside the center of my object. Now I can change the position the way I want. Go back to the create tab, and now we have a spline that is created in way we want. Now let us learn a way to create a spline in different ways. Let's delete this spline, go to the line. Once you click on the line, you have creation method. Inside the creation method, we have two types, initial type, drag type. Both are set to corners. What it means is like when I'm going to create an object, both of them will have corners. So click on it. When I click on every single time, you will see a corner is created in order to create the shape, because both of them are set to corner. But if I click on smooth as initial type and drag type as corner, so when I click on and click another point, you'll see the point becomes a curve. It's no longer a corner anymore. So you can see, but when I click and drag, you will see it becomes a corner because my drag type is set to corner. But just clicking, it will create a smooth shape. So now we have created another shape in which all the points are smooth, but this particular point is a corner point. Now let's go ahead and create another spline where I have both the, let's say, initial type is corner and drag type is smooth. So when I create this object, I can click, every time I click, it creates a corner because my initial type is corner. But when I click and drag, it will create a smooth point. And then if I just click, it will create a corner, but click and drag, it creates a smooth point. So this object has corner, 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 and smooth points. When I go ahead and create a drag type as Bezier, same concept. If I click on it, it creates a corner, but if I click and drag, it creates a Bezier curve. Now what is a Bezier? We will just look at it in a time. Click on here, click and drag, Bezier, click and click. So now we have a shape. If I go into the modifier panel, go into the vertex, you will see this, when I select this vertex, it's just a corner point. But when I select this particular vertex, we get handles. Here we have a handle through which we can modify this shape, and that is nothing but a Bezier handle. So when we have a Bezier point, we get handles to modify the shape. Now this particular vertex is a corner vertex, so it does not have handles. Similarly, we have a handle over here because we created a Bezier handle, Bezier shape. Here we have points. Now we can change any of these points to any other point even after creating. Like for example, when we created this shape in the beginning, all of these were corner points, but I can change these points to either smooth or Bezier. For that, I have to click on this, right click on it. Once you right click on this, you will see, go to the vertex and select on any of these vertices and then right click on it. You will see corner is tick. I can change this to smooth, Bezier or Bezier corner. If I click on smooth, you will see that particular point becomes smooth. Now if I click on this, select this vertex and say Bezier, right click and say Bezier, you will see I have a point with Bezier handle. So I can change any of these points to smooth, to Bezier corner, or Bezier, or a corner only. So if I select on this, I can go ahead and say Bezier corner. So now I have a corner with handles for me to modify the shape. This way you can create a shape while creating and also change the way you want to modify the shape or change the points and make it a smooth point, a Bezier point, or a corner point, depending on what you want to achieve in the shapes. So this is the way you create any type of shape that you want and create any different types of shapes that you like to create. Let's go ahead and read them. Now let's create a star and see how we can fill it. So I have a star over here and I'm going to go into the modifier panel and say points to 5. So now you can see we have something like a star. I'm going to reduce this inside radius 2 so it looks more like a star shape. So now we have a shape that is star shape. Now I can either, if I want to have thickness to this object, I'm going to go into the rendering, rollout, here enable in viewport. Click on this and you will see this star has some sort of a thickness. Now I can change the thickness by going into the thickness parameters over here, and let's say I want to create thickness of 6. So now you can see the star has a big thickness. If I rotate this, like go to the perspective and change this, and you will see a star has some thickness. Now, here we have 12 sides. In order to see the sides, go to the default shading, edge faces, and you will see the sides that you have. Let's go ahead and create this as a 4-side. Now you can see how it looks like. Now we have 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Now I can change the angle of these sides by clicking on it, and we have an angle parameter. If I go ahead and press 45-degree angle, now you will see the star looks like a flat surface and it has some height to it. So you can change the angle of your thickness as per your needs, and also increase the sides of it if you want, how smooth you want, how sharp you want. I can also put up and have 3 sides, and you will see we have 3 sides here, and I can change the angle to 0 again, and you can see we have 3 sides. So depending on the kind of shape that you want to create, you can modify these or edit these as per your needs, your requirements. Or you can also create, now this is a radial shape, you can go ahead and create a rectangle shape. Once you create a rectangle shape, you have length, width, and angle as well. So here we have length as 6, I can change it to 10, and you will see it becomes more and more taller. I can change it to 20, and you will see the star shape becomes more and more taller or height. Now the width has 2 units. I can change this to 5, and you will see we get a little bit of depth and thickness to the star here. So this is something that you can change and see how thick you want the star. Now let's turn off this viewport, enable in viewport, and you will see normal star that we have. Now if you want to fill this star, select the star, go to the modifier list and press E. When you press E, search for extrude. Select this extrude modifier. Once you select this extrude modifier, you will see above the star we have an extrude modifier placed. Now once you see this modifier, you will see this star shape is filled now inside the center. So this way you can fill any shape that you want by selecting the object and going and adding an extrude modifier on top of that shape. Now once you put an extrude modifier on the top of the shape, you will get few parameters that are related to the extrude modifier, which is amount and segments. And we have cap and start capping options, start segment, start end cap, and start cap. Now if I increase the amount over here, let's say 10, you will see the star is now has some sort of a thickness or some sort of a height here. Now I can add the segments over here, and you will see some segments getting added onto the height of the star. That depends on you how many segments that you want to add. For this scenario, we do not need segments, so I'm just going to create 1. So capping, when I click on the cap end, you will see the star, the top of the star gets removed, and we will see a hollow star over here, just like a kind of a basket. I can put things inside it if I want to. And if I click on the start cap, now you have a star that only has a border and it does not have a top and a bottom. So this way you can change the way it looks, or depends on what you want to create. So let's go ahead and click them back. Now we have a star which is filled. Similarly, you can create any other object. Let's say I want to create a circle, and let's say I have a circle over here, and I can go ahead and go to the modifier list, click on E, select extrude. Now I have another shape that is filled. Let's go ahead and change the color. Let's say I want to make it a green color, something like this. Now we have 2 shapes, star and a circle. It says a height. I can change the height of this, let's say 20, and now I have a shape with 20 height. with segments, and similarly I can just turn off cap and we can get this shape. So this is something that you want to understand when you want to create a shape. Now, most importantly, whatever shape that you have created or whatever shape that you have used, let's go ahead and delete this, or maybe we can keep this. Let's say we turn this off by going to the eye over here and turn off the eye, and you will see the modifier is no longer visible inside the viewport. Now here also we can just turn it off and we can see. Now here we have, let's go ahead and delete this. Now here we have a star. Now we have a star with parameters of the star here. Now we have radius 1, radius 2. Okay, so if I increase this radius, you will see that the star becomes more smooth at the corner, and if I turn on this extrude, it will still have that shape. Now what I want to show you is I can create any shape that I want and convert that shape into a line and change them as per my needs. For example, if I create a rectangle over here, okay, now when I create a rectangle, I have parameters as length and width, which I can change. But when I convert this to a line, I can go ahead, select this, right click and say convert to spline. When I convert this to spline, you will see this becomes, it's no more a rectangle, it becomes an editable spline, and we have these elements as like vertex, segment and spline that we have seen before. Now I can select these and change the shape of my rectangle the way I want and create any type of shape that I want over here. So it's not a rectangle anymore, it's a free line, and I can choose to create the shape that I want and also change the points to any point that I want. Like for example, I want to create this as a corner, right click and go to the corner. Now this point is corner, whereas this is Bezier corner, Bezier corner, Bezier corner. I can create this as a smooth by going to the smooth. This way I have a corner, smooth, Bezier corner, Bezier corner. So this way you can create and change the points to any type of points or any type of vertex you want, and then once you have created this, the same things apply to this. I can create thickness by going into the thickness, or I can also add an extrude modifier on top of it and change the parameters as I want. So this is something that you have to understand. Once you convert a primitive object into a line, it's not a primitive object anymore, it becomes a line, and you'll have vertex, segments and spline for that object, and no more the parameters that you used to have when it was a primitive object. I hope you understand this, and you can create any shape that you want and you can modify them later once you have created them inside 3ds Max. Let's go to the top view and see. Let's delete this, and we have the star over here. So in this chapter we have learned how to create primitive shapes, how to modify the shapes using the modify panel, how to create free-flowing line shapes, and the different ways in which you can create them in the initial type and drag type. Once you have created any shape, you can give thickness to that shape, or you can also fill that shape by using an extrude modifier, applying an extrude modifier on top of it. If you have created any primitive shape, you can also convert that shape into a line shape, and then you will get the elements like vertex, segments and element or spline, and you can modify that shape into any other shape of your choice or your desire. This is all for the shapes. That is how you can create the shapes or the shape that you want to create inside 3ds Max. You can create infinite number of shapes or any type of shape that is available inside the world by using these techniques. In the next chapter, we are going to talk about unit setups. It is a very important chapter. We are going to discuss what unit setups that we have to use while creating a scene. So do not miss that chapter, a very important chapter when it comes to creating objects. So I will see you in the next chapter.